Be seated, please. We are back on the record in cause number 940D09328, the state of Texas versus Daniel Villegas. We are ready to begin our second day of testimony. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Good morning.
You guys slept in late, huh? No. I've let them know there was a problem with the traffic. We're ready to begin our second day of testimony. Ms. Butterworth, Mr. Montoya, call your next witness, please.
The state calls Juan Medina to the stand.
Sir, please stand. Raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please be seated. For the record, sir, we do need your name. I need you to spell your last name for us.
Juan Medina, M-E-D-I-N-A.
Mr. Montoya, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today? May I need you to scoot a little bit closer to that microphone, okay? So the jury can hear you. Can you please tell the members of the jury your name and what you do for a living right now?
My name is Juan Medina, and I'm currently in TCJ.
You're incarcerated, right? Okay. And Mr. Medina, back in 1993, were you one of the persons that was shot at there on Electric Street?
Yes.
Okay. I want to take you back to that time. On the night of April 9th, 1993, who were you hanging out with that night?
It was Mondo Lazo, Bobby England, and Jesse Hernandez, Adrian Hernandez, his brother, and Hector, their cousin.
Their cousin?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember where you all were hanging out at, or what the plans were that evening?
It was just gonna be a get-together,
Okay.
and we just ended up at that place where we went.
Okay. Do you remember whose house it was?
I don't remember whose house that was. I just remember being there. You know, we ended up there.
Okay. How did you get there?
Hector, Jesse's cousin, drove us there.
He drove you there?
Yeah, we were there. We all went.
And what kind of car did Hector drive? Do you remember?
I think it was a Monte Carlo.
A Monte Carlo. Do you remember what color it was?
I think it was red.
Red. 70s or 80s, do you remember?
I believe it was late 70s.
And how long, or do you remember about what time you would have gotten to the house?
Probably, I'd say about 9 o'clock, around there.
Okay. And how long do you think that you all were there?
About a couple of hours.
At some point, sir, did the party end, or what happened?
Actually, Hector had left, took some girls back. Can't remember their names, but he left and he never came back. So we were waiting for him. We were just waiting to see what was going to happen. And of course, we were drinking and we were having our own fun while we were waiting.
How much did you have to drink? How much did you all have to drink that night?
Well, I personally had like a quart and a half.
Quart and a half. Of what?
And, malt liquor.
Malt liquor.
And it was pretty much everybody had about the same. If anything, it was Mondo. No, I think it was Bobby that had 2 quarts.
Bobby had 2
Yeah.
quarts. Were you guys intoxicated?
At that time, yes.
Yeah, okay. How long, so at some point, are you hanging out in the front yard of this house?
We went to the front because everybody had gone inside, so we went to the front just to see if Hector would show up.
Okay.
And I'd say about maybe like an hour and a half after, Hector had left, we went
Okay.
to the front.
And how long were you out there in the front?
A good, I'd say at least another hour and a half.
Do you remember what street this house was on?
I believe it was Jamaica.
Jamaica. And so I'm showing you states 1A. Do you see Jamaica here on the map, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Down here in the bottom left of 1A, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And after you were waiting outside, waiting for Hector, and did he ever show up?
No, he didn't.
Okay. What did you all do?
We decided just to go to Mondo's house.
Okay. Do you remember where Mondo lived?
He lives on Creston.
Creston. So let me zoom out from here. Do you see Creston here on the map?
Yes, I do.
Okay, over here on the far right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember where Jesse lived?
I believe he lived on Prince Edwards.
Okay. Right here?
Yes.
Okay. And so you all decide to walk?
Yes.
Okay. And which way are you walking?
We went towards Trans Mountain, and then we took it south towards Rushing, and we cut across. We were thinking of going straight, but we figured if we were to cut through Electric, it would be a shortcut.
And you said Rushing. This is Rushing Street right here?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Medina, I think there's a laser pointer there in front of you. If we ever need to refer to something, you'll have to point it here on this screen.
Okay.
Okay? When you're traveling east on Trans Mountain, what happens?
Well, as soon as we turned from Jamaica Street going east, I can't remember, it was between Kerwood or Kellogg, a car pulled up, slowed down.
Which way was it heading?
It's heading, I suppose, west.
Okay.
It's the opposite way.
So if you guys were walking east, the car was heading west on Trans Mountain.
Correct.
And what does the car do?
It just pulled over to the side a little bit, and they just stopped. And we thought it was someone we knew, so we approached it. And it started going up every time we would approach it. And then they kept doing it for a while, and then they just took off.
Okay. Which way did it take off? Do you
Kept
remember?
going west.
It kept going west on Trans Mountain?
Yes.
Okay. And how close would you say, what was the closest you got to this car?
To where you're at.
From me to you? Okay. And you said you thought it was someone you knew?
Yeah, we thought it was someone, one of us knew. I didn't know him, but I mean, I figured it was one of us that we knew who it was.
Okay. And did you describe the car? Describe the car that you saw on Trans Mountain.
It was an 80, between an 80, 82 model, like a Monte Carlo, kind of has the same body style with Cutlass Supreme. It was, the way I seen it was primer with the back part of the car, the top roof, it had a, I guess it was like, most of the cars back then had that, like, it's not as, it's kind of some kind of felt they put on it.
Okay.
And to me, it was like primer. That was it. I remember the wheels. They had white walls, but the rest was just tinted windows. You couldn't look inside.
All right. So let me break that down. You said it looked like a Monte Carlo. Is that fair?
I mean, yes.
And then you also said a Cutlass Supreme.
It's about the same style. Though. I mean, I'm referring to the style of the car.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the make, but it's like the same style. It's boxy.
Okay.
The same style.
And you said that it's primer
Gray.
Primer gray. Have you ever said differently before? Have you ever said that it was a different color?
I have. I mean, back then it was like.
Hold on, counsel, Be seated, please. The record should reflect the court has taken the jury out for a brief moment. Mr. Medina, this isn't anything personal to you. We're telling every witness here because of certain court rulings that have happened. We are treating this as the first time this case has ever gone to trial. I know you were there for the trial in 94 and 95. There was another type of hearing in 2011. I don't know that you were at that. They're not going to mention trials. They're going to talk about a previous time when you talked about this, or a previous statement that you gave is the hint to you that they're talking about either a previous witness statement or the times you've testified. And it was not going to be your fault, but if I didn't take the jury out and talk to you about that, you would have naturally talked about the trial back then. Don't say anything like that. They're going to couch it as, previously didn't you say this, or when you had an opportunity to talk about this, didn't you say that?
Right.
Okay? I'm going to give the jury a little bit, taking them out and doing that. So if there's any other things you guys got to get ready for. I think we're going to have to do this with Dr. Contin also. Do we have a set of witnesses that are currently here that weren't sworn in yesterday that we can give these admonishments at this time if we do?
They're not. We have them coming in right now.
Okay.
Maybe after this witness, maybe
There may be some.
try a group.
Yeah, I really don't want to keep doing this with them. I think you guys doing it is enough, but out of an abundance of caution, I understand why we're doing this. If they're ready, bring them in. Yes, sir. Do you need us to tell you where you were in your question? Okay. Be seated, please. We're back on the record. The jury has been brought back in. Mr. Montoya, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Medina, I know you just testified that the car that you saw on Trans Mountain, primer gray, right?
Right.
Have you ever stated something differently?
Well, I had said it was, I'd seen it off the moon. It looked like a goldish,
Okay.
but it was more of a primer.
Okay. So, fair to say, back in 1993, when you gave your original statement to the police, you said it was goldish. Is that fair?
That's correct.
But your testimony here today is you think it's gray, it looked gold because of the moon.
Correct.
And sir, you said the windows were, describe the tint.
It was like a limo tint. You could not see inside.
Okay. Could you tell if there was how many people were inside the car?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Was there any words exchanged between you all and the car here on Trans Mountain?
No.
After the car drove away, how did that make you all feel?
We really didn't think anything. We were really scared of going. We were just climbing around the way down anyway, so we just forgot about it.
Okay. Do you recall you or someone else in your group picking up a water meter cover?
I can't remember.
Can't remember. And how long do you think, Mr. Medina, it takes you to walk from the house here on Jamaica all the way here to what was then Electric Street?
I'd say about 25, 30 minutes.
Okay, quite a bit.
Yeah.
And are you guys walking fast, slow?
We were just flying around, so we flew slow.
Slow. How was Bobby England? How was he walking?
He was actually a little still stumbling a little. We were taking turns, Mom and I were taking turns to kind of help us walk.
Okay. Because he was drunk?
Yes.
Let me ask you, the car on Trans Mountain, did you think that they were going to fight you or get into some kind of confrontation?
We didn't know what was going to happen.
Okay. Now, once you get here to Electric, let me show you State's Exhibit number 1E. What happened?
Well,
and I'll just need you to make sure you want to keep your mouth towards the microphone. So back up a little bit. There you go. Perfect.
okay, we walked down this way, we crossed the street, went towards the dirt area along the fence line. We're walking about right here. We just seemed there was like traffic, and then there was no traffic for some reason. And then I remember seeing a car just coming through here and going all the way out this way, and then went down this way and parked right there. But at this point when it got here, it turned off its lights. So I knew, I was like, well, that's probably, I figured it was Hector playing a prank on us. So by the time we got about here, the car was already there, and we approached it. I was thinking like, hey, that's Hector, you know. And so we were telling him like, hey, why did you leave us here?
Okay. So let me ask you. Here I'm showing you 1D, okay, which is an older map. Fair to say that back in 1993, Mr. Medina, if you're traveling west on Trans Mountain, you can turn on to Electric. Is that fair?
Yes.
And also if you're traveling east on Trans Mountain, you can turn onto Electric.
Yes.
Okay. Did you see which direction the car was coming from?
It was coming from the opposite side. I guess it would be...
This side?
Yes.
The south side of Trans Mountain?
Right.
And it heading east?
Right.
Okay. And so I'm showing you 1E again. For the record, you're saying that you saw it turn its lights off before it crossed Oakwood?
Yes, way before.
Somewhere on this block?
Yes, right in between. I'd say right in between.
I'm sorry?
Right in between.
Okay.
The houses right there.
Okay. And when you saw this car, you said you thought it was Hector's?
Yeah, I mean, it was dark.
Okay.
And there ain't no light there. There ain't no... But I mean, I figured that's who he was. I figured he was playing a prank on us, you know, and we started approaching it, but since we were still kind of buzzing, we're like, hey, you know, why did you leave us here? You know, that's not cool. So as we were exchanging words, we were all saying something. I can't remember what we were saying, but I mean, I know I was like, hey, why did you leave us here? My hands in the air, you know.
Kind of upset?
Yeah, you know, it wasn't cool, so.
Let me ask you, how well lit is this area?
It's not.
Is it like pitch dark? Is there a
Some
light?
areas it is.
Okay. And you all are walking, you say, along the fence line?
Yes.
And when you're approaching the car, Who's yelling? Or who's saying things?
It's me. And then it's followed by Mondo, Bobby, and I think Jesse said a couple of words, but I can't recall what we were saying. I know what I said, but that's it.
Okay. How close do you all get to the car?
Not very close. I mean, we were about right there. We came like right there.
It's about halfway.
Yeah, about right there, because that pole right there was really, really close.
And who was closest to the car?
Me?
You?
Yes.
Okay. And where was Mondo and Bobby?
Bobby was to my right, about, I guess, probably a yard away. We were all spread out. We weren't all bunched up. Mondo was on my left, and right next to Bobby was Jesse.
And then, did you hear anything coming from the car? Did anyone say anything from the car?
No.
Okay. Have you ever stated anything differently?
To be honest with you, I really can't remember that part.
Okay. Let me ask you this, sir. Were you all ever throwing gang signs at the car?
No.
No. Okay. Sir, back in 1993, were you in a gang?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Where did you live in April of 1993?
I lived in the Eisenhower projects.
Okay. I know was there a gang there based out of the Eisenhower projects?
Yes.
Okay. And what were they called?
Eisenhower Crazy Hood.
Eisenhower Crazy Hood.
Yes.
Fair to say ECH?
Yes.
That was the acronym?
Yes.
And what were the colors of ECH? Do you
Blue.
remember? Blue.
Yes.
Did you ever associate or hang out with with ECH members?
Yes, I did. I mean, I lived there.
Okay. How often?
I mean, when we went to school.
Okay. Would you ever, DJ for them at parties, things like that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Would people think that you were an ECH?
They probably would, because I lived there. That's
Okay.
what it was based on. I mean, it's easy to get labeled that way.
And when you all are yelling at the car, what's the next thing that you remember?
Well, all of a sudden, we start hearing, I see a spark. With that spark comes a gunshot, and several right after that one.
Okay.
At that time, I felt one had just passed by me, and I heard it ricochet off the chain, off the fence.
Okay.
By then, I turn around and I just say, "Run!" Jesse was the first one I seen, and I just told him, "Come on, let's just run." So we ran. We started running. I see him look back, and then I said, "Come on, just keep running. They could run. If anything, we'll meet at Blockbuster or further down. We'll catch up to them." Because I figured Mondo and Bobby would take off the other way.
You thought they would run the
Yeah, I
other way?
figured they would run the other way, so we could spread out.
Why? Okay. Why did you think that?
I mean, to distract the shooter, maybe.
Okay. To split up.
To split up, yeah.
And after you started running, did the gunshots continue? Did they stop?
They did. They continued. But as we got further away, I mean, with the adrenaline going and everything, I just lost track. I couldn't hear him anymore.
How many gunshots do you think were fired? Do you remember hearing?
From when it started, it was about 7.
Okay.
From the point when it started to when we started running, and then I just lost count.
And then you're saying there were more?
To me, I counted 7.
Okay. But I want to be, are you saying that you heard gunshots, started running, or there was a pause and then more gunshots?
No, as we were running.
As you were running?
As we were running.
There were more?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that part of the 7, or you're saying there's more?
No, that's the whole 7 that I've heard.
When you were approaching the car on Electric, could you tell whether it was the same car that you all had seen on Trans Mountain?
Later it came to mind, and it did.
Okay. How sure are you that the car that you saw on Electric is the car that you saw on Trans Mountain?
Well, I mean, after it all went down, I put 2 and 2 together, and I figured that's the car that was.
Okay. So you feel confident it's the same?
I feel confident, yes.
Sir, let me ask you, I'm showing you 1B. Why would you have not walked, you all decided to walk south and then east, is that fair?
Yes.
Why did you all not walk north and then east on Fairbanks?
That was another territory, and we figured to avoid any confrontations from anybody, to go the opposite way.
Did you all have any problems with any gangs?
I mean, I didn't. I mean, Bobby and Mondo, I mean, there were sometimes they had some conflicts with some of them people, but just that I was aware of.
You're saying that they would have conflicts with people. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Did they ever have problems? Back in 1993, did you know who Rudy Flores was?
I had heard of him, but I didn't know him.
Okay. What about Javier Flores?
I know that was his brother.
Okay. To your knowledge, did Mondo ever have any issues with them?
I believe with Javier.
Okay. Have you ever stated differently, sir?
I can't remember if I did or not.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? So, Mr. Medina, I'm showing you some questions that you were asked previously. You've had a chance to review this before, right?
Right.
Okay. I want to direct your attention here to lines 19 through 22.
Okay.
You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And the question was, did Rudy Flores and Frank Flores ever bring problems to you and Mondo? And your answer was, no, not that I'm familiar with. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's what you said back in 1994.
Correct.
Your Honor, may we approach? Mr. Medina, do you know John Membella?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How many times prior to today have you met with him?
It's been a while.
When do you think that you met with him?
I met with him in, I believe it was in 2011, 2012.
Okay. And did he ever ask you to do anything on behalf of the defendant, Daniel Villegas?
I mean, not directly that way, but I mean, it was evidence that I had seen.
Let me stop you there. The question is, did he ever...
Can you allow to answer the question? He asked the question?
Let him answer the question unless it's non-responsive, and then we'll let the defense get into it as well.
Did he ever ask you to do anything?
It was, I mean, the question, the way it sounds, it's like a pressure. I mean, it wasn't intended that way. I mean, but yes, he did.
Okay. What did he ask you to do?
Just to see if I could get in touch with Mondo's mom and see what I had seen.
Okay.
To show, to try and get touch base with her to see where I was at. I mean, it wasn't going to change her decision. That I probably know that was going to happen regardless, but I mean, it was at least to try. I mean, out of my behalf, I really didn't have to do it, but I wanted her to see something that I had seen.
Fair enough. Did did you get in touch with Mondo's mom?
It was impossible.
Okay. And back in 2000, what years did you say?
It was 11 or 2012.
Okay. Were you ever employed by Mr. Membella?
At the time, I was having financial problems,
Okay.
and he did give me side jobs.
How often?
I can't recall. It's maybe 3-4 times.
Okay. How much do you think you got paid for those side jobs?
I'd say under 500.
Under 500?
Yeah.
Would you be surprised to know that the records we have from Membella Contractors show it's about 5,000?
It was a loan.
Okay.
He had loaned me some money as well.
Okay.
But as far as working, he had paid me under 500.
Okay. And sir, did he ever help you out with any medical expenses for your children?
No, he didn't.
Okay. What did he do with
I mean,
regard to that?
I had broken my ankle at that time, my heel,
Okay.
and that's when I asked him for some loans as far as to support my financial, my living costs.
Okay. And that would have been in the same time, 2011, 2012?
About 2011. I really can't remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Medina.
You're welcome.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Spencer?
Mr. Medina, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Joe Spencer, and I'm one of Daniel Villegas' lawyers. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. If you don't know something or you don't understand, let me know, and I'm going to reword it or rephrase it. Is that fair enough?
That's fair enough.
Is it fair to say, Mr. Medina, that you're not here voluntarily?
Excuse me?
Is it fair to say you're not here voluntarily?
The way it sounds.
You were bench warrant back. You said you told the jury you were in TDC.
Yes.
That's where you reside.
Right.
So you didn't, the state of Texas bench warrant you back from prison to bring you to court today, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You also, at some point, you're a victim in this case, correct?
Correct.
And at some point when you spoke with one of the detectives, you were also accused of being part of the killers for your friends, weren't you?
Yes.
I mean, they bullied you and basically told you that you and your friends, you and Jesse were the ones that killed your Armando and Robert, didn't they?
Yes.
when Mr. Mbella contacted you, he asked you, he wanted to know, what did you see? He wanted to know what you saw.
Correct.
He asked you what happened, correct?
Correct.
He probably asked you a lot more questions about that happened that evening than the detectives asked you. Fair?
Fair.
Gave you information to see what you knew because he felt Daniel was innocent, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So he was doing an investigation to see what you could find out that the police didn't find out. Is that fair?
Yes, fair.
And when you first saw the vehicle down on Trans Mountain Road, and was it Kellogg, you said?
It was between Kellogg and Kerwood.
Okay. You initially thought it was Hector maybe at first?
No, not that time.
Not at that time?
No, not that time.
Okay.
We were
all
too
right.
close to the car.
But you saw that it was a vehicle that kind of did a cat and mouse game?
Yes.
And then it took off, the car, is that
Yes.
correct? And you told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that the reason that you all went down Jamaica Street to Trans Mountain as opposed to Fairbank, you said that was another territory. That's the LML territory?
Yes.
Los Midnight Locos, correct?
Correct.
And Rudy Flores said the Flores brothers live in that area, correct?
Oh, well, some of their associates too.
Okay. You told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that it was dark, correct?
Correct.
And you really had no idea who was in the vehicle or who fired the shots, correct?
Yes, correct.
And when the shots were fired and you and Jesse took off, you were assuming Mondo and Robert went in the other direction like you told the jury, correct?
Correct.
You didn't know that anybody had been hit at that point, is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Were you able to notice when you and Jesse were running north that the car was following you or was going in the same direction?
I didn't pay no attention to it.
You were just trying to get
I
out
was
of
just
Dodge as
trying
quick
to-
as you could?
Exactly.
Pretty frightening moment?
Yes, it was.
And when you're not suggesting to the jury that you counted exactly 7 shots, are you?
Well, that's the shots that I remember.
Okay. Could it have been 6?
It could have been more, it could have been less.
Okay.
I mean, with adrenaline, I mean, who's to say?
Okay. And do you recall the address of the location where you went to visit that evening?
No.
You remember you gave a statement?
I remember I did.
And do you remember when you gave the statement, you indicated the address of where you went?
Well, at that time, it was fresh.
Okay, sure, I understand that. If I showed you a copy of your statement, would that refresh your memory?
Sure.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Does that appear to be your statement, Mr. Medina? Is that your signature?
Yes.
The statement that you gave shortly after the event on April the 10th of 1993?
Yes.
And when you were asked about where you were going, the address was 10032 Jamaica, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That would have been the house where you went with the girls, little gathering, correct?
Right, correct.
If the Google map indicates approximately where the house is of 10032 Jamaica Street, you wouldn't have an argument of where it's located on the map, would you, sir? I haven't showed it to you yet. Okay. At this time, we move to introduce Defendant's Exhibit Number 1, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Defense Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence.
So the house on Jamaica Street that you went to visit, that you told the officers 10032, is approximately about halfway on Jamaica Street, maybe a little bit slightly closer to Trans Mountain, correct?
Correct.
But you indicated the main reason you all went down to Trans Mountain and walked there was to avoid this territory up here that was another person's turf or another gang's
Yes,
turf.
correct.
Mr. Medina, in the statement that you gave in 1993, you didn't put in that statement, by the way, that witness statement that you signed, did you write it or did one of the detectives type it for you?
The detectives.
Because in the statement that the detectives typed for you, you didn't indicate there that you had been accused of being one of the shooters of your friends, did you?
No.
Okay. Is the reason why it wasn't there is because the detectives didn't put it there?
I believe so.
Had you ever been asked that question before, any other time? If you had been accused?
I can't remember.
You don't recall
I don't
testifying
recall.
to them? If somebody had asked you that, what would you have said?
I would have said yes.
Pass the witness.
Mr. McLeod?
Very briefly. Mr. Medina, this, what you just said, that the police accused you of committing the crime.
It wasn't the police, it was a detective.
Right, the detective. This is the first time that you're mentioning this, right?
The first time, yes.
Okay. And back in 1993, do you remember the statement, which detective you gave the statement to?
I remember what he looked like, but I don't remember his name.
Okay, if I showed you the statement, would that help?
Sure.
Okay, may I approach?
Yes, sir.
Do you see the name?
Yes.
What is it?
Arbogast?
Arbogast.
Yes.
Earl Arbogast.
Earl Arbogast.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Mr. Spencer, any more questions?
Is he the only detective you spoke with, or did you also speak
That
with?
was the detective ICE had spoken to. I believe Jesse was with Marquez, and by the time I got there, I mean, he was really out of there. I mean, he was trembling, shaking, and because I mean, it all came to him. He was really scared.
Jesse.
Jesse was.
You saw him very emotional, very crying?
Very emotional, and Marcus was not helping. He was on him like I was like, what's going on, you know? And then that's when Arbogast pulled me to the side. That's when he got up and said that remark.
Was it Marcus that told you that?
Marcus was the one that said that.
That accused you of being?
Well, both of us, not just me, both of us.
Right.
He
Marcus
said-
accused both you and Jesse
Yes.
of being the shooters.
Correct.
And the reason you'd never said that before is because nobody had ever asked you
Nobody
that.
ever asked.
Pass the witness.
Anything else, Mr. McLeod?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. Call your next witness.
Jeff Kelly?
Jeff Kelly,
Yes, sir.
and that person has not been.
He is not.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. For the record, sir, I do need your name. I need you to say your last name for us.
Jeffrey Kelly, Kelly.
Mr. McClure.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Kelly, or good morning, sorry.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Just fine.
Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury? Tell them your name and what you do for a living.
My name is Jeffrey Kelly. I am a forensic scientist with the Texas Department of Public Safety Crime Lab.
And Mr. Kelly, what are some of your duties and responsibilities as a forensic scientist at the Texas Department of Public Safety Crime Lab?
I work in the firearm and tool mark section as well as the controlled substance section.
And in the firearms and tool marks section, what are some of your duties and responsibilities?
To examine any evidence submitted to the lab to determine origin of fired evidence, if it came from a specific firearm, or if I can identify cartridge cases to each other.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been with DPS a little over 7 years. I've been in El Paso for 5.5.
Can you describe for the members of the jury your education and training that qualifies you to perform these kinds of firearm examinations?
Your Honor, I will stipulate as to Mr. Kelly being qualified in the form of firearms and ballistics opinion.
Do you accept that, Mr. Montoya?
I do, Judge, but I'd like to just have one little bit of background.
I will.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead. The court has received Mr. Kelly as an expert in the field of firearms
Analysis. And Mr. Kelly, briefly, could you describe your educational background?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in biology with a minor in chemistry from Hardin-Simmons University in Abilene, Texas. I have a master's of science in forensic science from Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas.
Okay. And when you're conducting firearms or an analysis of casings, what are you looking for on a casing?
Yes, I'm looking at individual striated marks that were made when the cartridge case was fired.
Okay. And where are those located on the cartridge?
Depending on the type of cartridge I'm looking at, it can either be on the firing pin impression, the chamber marks, extractor marks, ejector marks.
Okay. And back in June of this year, we had some casings that were submitted to you for independent analysis. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And if I showed them to you, would you recognize them?
Yes, I would.
We are approaching the witness with what has already been entered as age 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Kelly, are these all the casings that you examined under this case number?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And can you tell us the caliber of the casings?
These are .22 caliber cartridge cases.
And based on your examination of the casings, what can you tell us about the firearm or firearms that fired them?
All 6 of the submitted casings, cartridge cases, were fired in the same gun.
From the same gun?
That is correct.
And can you tell us what kind of gun or what type of model of gun would have fired these casings?
Not without a specific gun to look at, no.
Okay. Are there different, could they have been fired from a handgun?
There are .22 caliber handguns, yes.
Okay. Could they have been fired by a .22 rifle?
Yes, that's possible.
Okay. Is there any way to tell from just the casings what kind of firearm they were fired by?
No, sir. Okay. Not from just the casings.
All right. And you were also submitted a projectile that was recovered at an autopsy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kelly, I'm showing you states, what has now been marked as states 38. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And is that the projectile, the slug that you examined?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell us what caliber the bullet, the projectile is?
The projectile is also a .22 caliber.
Okay. Can you tell us whether it was fired from the same gun that the casings came from?
We don't make a comparison between casings and projectiles. We look at cartridge cases by themselves and projectiles separately.
So it's fair to say the bullet that is actually fired You can't compare it to the casings that are ejected from the gun.
We don't know, and I do not.
Apples and oranges.
That is correct.
Okay. Sir, were you also asked to run one of the casings through a firearms database?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And tell us about this database. What is it called?
The database is called NIBIN, which is the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network.
Okay. And how long has this firearms database been around?
This specific database has been around since 1999.
Okay. Were there any firearm databases prior to 1999?
Yes, there were two.
Okay. And what were those two?
There were, the first one was ran by the FBI, and it was called DrugFire. The second database was called IBIS, I-B-I-S, and was run by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
Okay. And are those databases included within NIBIN?
The IBIS system is, I'm not sure DrugFire was.
Okay. I guess when they were merged.
Yes, the FBI and the ATF decided to come up with one system. The two systems weren't talking to each other, so if one was entered on one database, if you searched the other database, you wouldn't necessarily know it was entered.
And when one of the cartridge casings from our scene, one of the 22s, was that examined or was that put through the database?
At the time it was originally submitted, no, it was not.
Okay. In June of 2018?
Yes, in 2018 it was.
Okay. And were you able to get any matches or hits from this database?
No, we did not.
Okay. And I guess I should ask, what is put into this database? Is every gun across the entire United States put into this database?
So the database is a collection of images of cartridge cases produced either test fires from a firearm or evidence cartridge cases from a scene. The breech face or the firing pin area is imaged, and then a algorithm or a search is done throughout the database to find the top 100 possible IDs or possible things that match to it. It takes an examiner to looking at those matches to determine if that's suitable or not, and if they are, then any matches are then corroborated or visually inspected on a microscope.
And have you ever done that before?
I have not, no.
Okay. Has that ever happened here in El Paso?
I have had some matches made in El Paso, yes.
Okay. With cases or crimes that happened where else?
I've had, the one that matched here in El Paso was an El Paso case that matched to a firearm that was picked up by ATF. And I've had three other cases that I worked for the Austin lab that matched to cases that were entered in by the Houston PD as well as the Houston Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And the ones that were submitted under this case number, they returned nothing?
Nothing came back, no.
Okay. Would you say that the casings that were found at this scene were of good quality to put in this database?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Which is why we entered them in this time.
Okay. No further questions, Jim.
Mr. Spencer?
Mr. Kelly, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Joe Spencer. I'm one of Daniel Villegas' attorneys. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. If you don't understand what I ask you, let me know. I'm going to reword it or rephrase it. Okay, sir?
That's fine.
All right. Did I understand you correctly that, did you run all 6 casings to the database or just one?
Once I identified all of them to one firearm, we took and put one cartridge case in.
Okay, so you were able to determine that all 6 of the casings were from one firearm, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you were asked to do that in June of 2018?
Yes, sir.
Did I hear you correctly that you could not tell us the model of the weapon that extracted those casings?
Not based on the cartridge cases, no.
Is it true that the Texas Forensic Science Commission has investigated your department for deliberately falsifying results?
Not the firearm section, no.
That's not my question. For deliberately falsifying results.
And object to relevance if it had nothing to do with the firearm section.
Let's finish the answer so I can determine whether it's a proper question.
And I thought the question was asked, but I don't know.
What was say your question again?
Sure. The Texas Forensic Science Commission has investigated your department for deliberately falsifying results. Yes or no?
They have reviewed, the Texas Department of Public Safety has been reviewed under the Forensic Science Commission, yes. It was not for firearms analysis.
That's not my question.
Well,
What department are you asking? The Department of Public Safety?
Yes, sir.
The question is with regard to the Department of Public Safety.
my objection, Judge, is, it has nothing to do with firearm.
Yes.
And back in 1993, you weren't working for the department, is that correct?
No, sir.
In fact, the investigation that was done actually led to the firing of an employee, is that fair?
Judge, I'm going to object if it has nothing to do with the firearm.
Are you asking about the firearms, Mr. Spencer, or another portion of the Department of Public Safety?
I'm asking about an employee that worked with the department that was terminated as a result of falsifying reports.
Sustained.
I'm confused. You asked me about 93, and then you asked me about a person being fired, so I don't know anything about 93, anybody being fired, no.
Well, I wasn't asking if he was fired in 93. I was asking about since the investigation. Was anybody from your department fired?
My
No.
objection is relevant.
Sustained. He answered it.
They left the department voluntarily.
Sir,
Okay.
okay, let me help you out. When there's an objection, if I overrule it, you need to answer. If I sustain it, don't answer.
Yes, sir.
I sustained it.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
They weren't fired, they left voluntarily.
Objection, Your Honor, relevant.
Sustained.
You weren't asked to compare a weapon that may have either expended the extraction of those casings or determined the projectile from where that weapon came from. Is that true?
No firearm was submitted, no. So I was not asked to do that.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Mr. Mulder,
No further questions, Judge.
the court is going to finally excuse this witness. Sir, you are free to leave your lawyer at the court's appeal.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Our next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time, the state calls Dr. Juan Contin.
Sir, raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. For the record, sir, I do need your name. I need you to spell your last name for us.
My name is Juan Contin, J-U-A-N, C-O-N-T-I-N.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Contin.
Sorry.
Do me a favor and introduce yourself this morning to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please.
About what?
Introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Dr. Juan Contin.
And?
I am the deputy medical examiner.
A deputy medical examiner for the County of El Paso, is that
Yes.
correct? I would like to go very briefly, Dr. Contin, through your history, I guess as a doctor, if you'll tell us a little bit about where you got your education, and then let's talk about your employment in El Paso County.
Your Honor, we will stipulate it to the expertise of Mr. Contin as a forensic medical examiner and be able to give an opinion before this
The
jury.
court's going to accept that, but I'm going to let you give a brief history so they understand.
Thank you.
The court is accepting Dr. Juan Contin as an expert in the field of forensic pathology. Right?
Yes.
There you go. Go on.
So if you'll quickly tell us a little bit about your background that's going to qualify you to testify
Well,
today.
I received an MD degree in 1960. I came to the United States in 1961. In 61, I began my first year of internship in Mount Vernon Hospital, Mount Vernon, New York. Between 62, 63, I did 1 year of pathology at the same hospital in Mount Vernon, New York. Then I proceeded to go to the Bronx Municipal Hospital Center, that's New York Hospital. And I completed my residency. I stayed there for 3 years. In 66, I went back to Mount Vernon as assistant pathologist until 1968. That year, I joined the U.S. Army and was served 1 year in Fort Gordon, Georgia, and 1 year in Vietnam. Upon returning, I became chief pathologist for a hospital in Spring Valley, New York, that used to be called Ramapo, R-A-M-A-P-O. At the same time, I was pathologist for the medical examiner's office in Rockland County. I came there past in 75, and in 76 I was appointed deputy medical examiner. In 1968 I became chief medical examiner until 2000. Then after a few months I went back as deputy medical examiner. And since then, the last few years, between I guess about 2009 and 14, I was temporary chief medical examiner, then chief medical examiner, then deputy medical examiner.
Okay, so you've been, throughout the last few years, you were chief medical examiner, deputy medical examiner,
Yes.
back to temporary chief medical examiner,
Yes.
and now you're back to deputy.
Yes.
So you tried to retire a couple times in this process?
Well, I should, maybe.
But we won't let you, will we, Dr. Contin?
Pardon?
We won't let you.
No.
Okay. And all these years, Dr. Contin, how did you end up in El Paso? I don't know that I know this
Well,
answer.
living in Mount Vernon, New York, that's next to New York City. I wanted to have a new way of life. I didn't like New York. Huh?
So you came to El Paso?
Yes.
And you clearly have liked it since?
Yes.
All right. I want to talk to you. So back in 1993, that was when you were under the tenure of Chief Medical Examiner for El Paso County.
That's correct.
So you were employed here working at our ME's office, but you did not conduct the autopsy of the two boys involved in our case. Is that correct?
No, at that time we had some temporary help, so to say. They didn't stay very long, but we had an assistant pathologist. And the particular one that did this autopsy was Mohammed. And not Jim, and he was there for, I don't remember, 1 or 2 or 3 years. And he used to be a captain or major for the Army, and I was serving, doing his work at William Bowman.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity, Dr. Contin, to look at those autopsy reports for these two individuals and review some photos that were taken as well during the autopsy?
Yes, I did.
All right. Do you feel that you are able to give an opinion regarding the cause of death for both of these individuals?
Yes.
Okay. I want to start with Armando Lazo. Let's begin with him. Okay? This individual was shot, or it looks like he was shot 2 times. Is that correct?
Yeah, the one shot was in the abdomen and the other one in the left thigh.
Okay, and so just to make sure the jury is clear, the first gunshot wound that Mr. Lazo received was in the abdomen near the belly button. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, you cannot tell which one was first.
Okay, I'm sorry. In the order that I'm talking about. And so we'll say that again, and I'm sure it's going to be asked of you multiple times. So let's start right now. Of his 2 gunshot wounds that he received, would you or any other forensic pathologist be able to tell a jury the order in which those gunshots
That's not
were
possible.
received on the body? Not possible.
No.
Okay, I'm taking them in order to talk about them, but this could have been the second gunshot received.
It could
Could have
be.
been the first.
Yes.
There's no way to know.
No.
Okay, so the first one we're talking about is the gunshot received to the abdomen of Mr. Lazo. And is it fair to say that it was on his left side, close to his belly button?
Yeah, it was about 1 inch to the left of the belly button.
Okay. And was that, the wound that we see, is that an entry wound?
Yeah, that was an entry wound.
Okay, and it did not exit, is that correct?
No, the bullet penetrated the abdominal cavity and damaged some the intestine, and it torn the left iliac vein and artery.
Okay. We've heard prior testimony, Dr. Contin, that there was bullet fragment that was recovered from Mr. Lazo. Would that be what you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
he was recovered next to the lumbar vertebra number 5, which is deep in the pelvis.
Okay.
On the left side.
All right. And may the record reflect, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 36. And does this photograph clearly and accurately depict that, the first gunshot wound that we're talking about in this photograph?
Yes, this is a photograph of the belly, and he underwent surgery before he died.
Right, there was testimony he was taken away from the scene to try to receive medical.
Yes.
Okay, and so that's probably what this is.
Yeah, that's the reason for the surgery.
All right, but what is this right here?
Well, that's the bullet wound.
That is the bullet wound that we're
That's
talking
the
about.
entry, yes.
Okay. Then I want to talk to you, Dr. Contin, about State's Exhibit 37.
This is the second bullet that he described, and this is the bullet went in the inside of the left side, and it traveled to the flesh and came out that took about 3 inches from the entry.
Okay. So in this photograph, Mr. Lazo is laying on his stomach. We're looking at the back side of Mr. Lazo. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe that you just testified that the entry of this bullet is this one right here. Is that correct?
Yeah, where the loop is in the wire.
Where the loop is?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
That's the entrance.
So here is the entrance, and we basically have this probe that's showing us the direction of travel of the bullet. Is that correct?
Yes.
So here is the entrance, and here is the exit. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so if Mr. Lazo is laying on his stomach, this is his left leg.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so the trajectory of this particular bullet is from the inside of the thigh going up and exiting basically the back of his leg.
Yeah, that's a right to left and slightly upwards.
And it's what?
Upwards.
Upwards. Okay. So let's talk about, do you remember the height of Mr. Armando Lazo? Is that something that's documented?
It's 71 and a half inches.
So what is that in
It's
normal?
5 feet, 1 inch, or 71 plus half an inch.
So tell me what his height is.
5'7".
5'7".
No, 6, 8 feet. He was almost 6 feet. He was short half an inch to be 6 feet.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're doing this and not me, because I have never been able to do this math. So he's how tall? 6 feet?
Yes, approximately. It's a
Approximately.
little bit shorter than 6 feet.
Okay. 71 and a half inches. Is that correct?
Pardon?
71 and a half inches.
Yes.
All right. So, Dr. Contin, if an individual who's roughly that height has a bullet wound that's entering from this position and it's going up, where would the gun have to be?
They had to come, the bullet had to come from his right.
His right?
Yes.
And would it come from above or underneath?
Well, it's going upwards. I mean, when we describe up and down in pathology, doesn't mean that the position of the body. It's going upwards according to the standard anatomical position, which is straight up. And this is front, this is back, this is right, this is left.
Okay. So the trajectory is up.
Yes.
So where is the gun Or where would the gun be? Would it make a difference if this person was standing or laying down?
Well, if it is standing, the other person had to be at a lower level for the bullet to go up.
Okay, so if the person is standing, the person with the gun would have to be at a lower level for the bullet to go up.
Well, assuming they're standing, yes.
Okay. And actually, we shouldn't even say the person. The gun would have to be at a lower level for the trajectory to go up.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Which kind of makes common sense, right? I think if we all understand physics, the gun would have to be underneath this entry point for it to go up. Is that correct?
Unless the person doing the shooting is low, in the lower position, they're looking at him from behind. I mean, you can never tell the position of the assailant or the victim, because it depends on whether they're standing, they are at different levels.
Right. So I have two different questions. If he's standing, the gun would have to be lower than the entry room.
Yes.
What if he's laying down?
Well, then the other person has to be to his left.
With the gun lower as well?
Yes.
Okay. What was Mr. Lazo's cause of death in this particular case?
He led to the, the bullet number one damaged the left iliac artery. That's a big pipe. It's about half an inch in thickness.
Okay. So this is his lethal bullet wound. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've told the jury that you cannot testify in the order that he received these gunshots. Is that correct?
No.
Could an individual who have received this gunshot first, would that individual be able to continue to run or try to get away?
Yes.
Okay, so this isn't a gunshot wound that's going to drop him in the spot where he was hit?
No.
Okay.
You are able to walk on with a kind of bullet wound.
Okay. And the one to his leg is not lethal. This would not have killed him?
No.
Okay.
It's non-fatal.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 35, Dr. Contin. This is the back of Mr. Lazo's head. What are we looking at here?
Well, he had a laceration in the back of the head.
Okay. A fresh laceration. It's
Yes,
not a gun bullet
no,
wound,
that was
correct?
a fresh laceration. Well, most likely it took place when he collapsed and hit the ground.
Okay. This is indicating that at some point he fell and hit the ground.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Robert England now. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 31. And then I'm going to show you for reference, that's State's Exhibit 31, and now I'd like to look at State's Exhibit 32. I believe that we're looking at, it would be his right side of his head above.
I think that's a...
I'm sorry, his left. It would be his left. This is his left ear?
Yes.
Okay, and we're looking at a wound above his left ear.
Yes.
Do you see that wound?
Yes.
And then we have State's Exhibit 33. I'm going to try to show these at the same time. Which is the other side of his head, where we're looking at his right ear and the wound above that.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us?
Doctor, if you need to use a laser pointer, there's one that's been provided for you right there on the witness CD.
Can you tell us about this particular gunshot that Mr. Robert England received?
Well, he had a gunshot wound to the left side of the head, above the ear.
This is our entry wound. The left
The left, yes.
is the entry.
The entry is left?
Exit right. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And this is going to be one shot. Is that correct? We have an
Here we
entry
have-
and an exit.
Yes, he went in here, above the ear on the right, and came out on the left.
Oh, I'm sorry. It came in on the right?
No, it came out in the left and came out in the right.
Okay. Entry left, exit
Entry left,
right.
exit.
Okay.
And it went through the brain.
And is this gunshot wound fatal?
Yes,
Is this what caused the death of Robert England?
that's correct.
All right, and he only received one gunshot, is that
Yes,
correct?
That's correct.
All right. All right. Thank you, Dr. Contin. I pass the witness.
Mr. Spencer.
Dr. Contin, good morning.
Right.
As you know, I'm Joe Spencer, I represent Daniel Villegas. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Is there something you don't know or you don't understand? Let me know and I'm going to reword it or rephrase it. Is that fair enough?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. You've testified, you have a copy of the autopsy report of Robert England and Armando Lazo?
Yes,
And that's what you've been using to testify from today, is that correct?
yes.
This is Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
This is the first homicide case I've ever had that stated not introduce the autopsy report, so I'm going to do that for the jury.
Judge, I'm not allowed by law to introduce it because he didn't author it.
Well, Mr. Spencer.
May I approach the witness, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Let me show you what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit Number 2 and Defendant's Exhibit Number 3. On Defendant's Exhibit 2 and 3, is that a copy of the medical examiner's autopsy report that you've been reviewing and testifying for?
Yes, number 3, it will be Armando Lazo, and number 2, Robert England.
Right. And is the information on here accurate and you reviewed it?
Yes.
Okay, this time we move to introduce Defendant Exhibit 2 and Defendant Exhibit 3.
Any objection?
Technically, under the law, this is not admissible, but since the defense is doing it, I don't object since I can't appeal
I
it.
want to object to sidebar, Your Honor.
That's just a response to whether...
If I, no objection, if I just may see the exhibits, please. No objection, Your Honor.
Defense exhibits 2 and 3 are admitted into evidence.
With respect to Armando Lazo, you have, in medical jargon, explained pretty good explanation in the autopsy report of the external examination, the cause of death, evidence of injury, and all of that. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. In addition to that, there's also some additional notes that the medical examiner who does the autopsy report has what's called a homicide investigation autopsy checklist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then, to further, in case there's any other questions about it, there's also a diagram of the body. It has clarification of the entry wound, exit wound, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I want to make sure I understood your question, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Dr. Contin. Did you say, with respect to Armando Lazo, that the entrance wound was on the rear, to the front?
In the back of the left side,
In the back of the left thigh?
about 4.5 inches above the knee.
Okay. Defendant's Exhibit Number 3, which is part of Armando Lazo's autopsy report, when we're looking at the checklist there, it says, this would be the front of Armando Lazo, correct?
Yes.
And it says bullet entry wound, correct?
Yes.
And it's got it on the front of his thigh, correct?
Yes.
And this is the
Well,
back?
not in front. It was in the medial, in the center. You could only see it from the back.
Okay. And this is the back of Armando Lazo, correct?
Yes.
And it says bullet exit. Is that
Yes.
correct? And it points to where the bullet exit is?
Yes.
So I'm a little confused because what the drawing shows where the entrance and exit is different from what you've testified to the jury is, isn't it?
No, the bullet entered in the inside of the left side and went upwards and left. It's still left in the back of the thigh because the bullet traveled inside the body maybe 3 inches.
Okay. But what this drawing shows is the exit of the bullet wound that appears to be the back of his thigh. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. There was no evidence, was there, Dr. Contin, of any of the, specifically Armando Lazo, of being run over by a vehicle or any injuries of any of that type of trauma, correct?
There was no that type of injury, no.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Barber.
No further questions, Your Honor. We ask that Dr. Contin be excused.
Doctor, thank you very much for being here. You're no longer in the first subpoena. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a morning break. Try to take another one. You're not to discuss the case with anyone. You're not to remain within the hearing of anyone discussing this case. You're not to discuss this case among yourselves. I do need you back in the court by 10 to 11, at which time we will continue the trial of this case.
All rise.
Please be seated. We'll stand in recess for 20 minutes.